An orientation is in order before you view our videos and pictures of this example of one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. Here are some internet images to illustrate Panama Canal views that we were not able to get. Unlike the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal has a series of 3 locks, raising ships upward 85 feet to Gatun Lake, and then 3 more locks, lowering ships to the other ocean. The engineering effort was begun by the French in 1880, but financial troubles and diseases made the initiative fail. In 1904, Panama negotiated an agreement with the United States for the continued construction of the canal, which was completed in 1914. The U.S. handed over the full operation, administration, and maintenance of the canal to Panama on December 31, 1999. In 2016, the Panama Canal expansion project was completed, which doubled the capacity of the 50-mile waterway by adding a 3rd lane of traffic, allowing for a larger number of ships to pass. 2 new sets of locks were built, and the existing channels were widened and deepened to accommodate the new larger ships. This internet video should clarify the project.
Panama Canal celebrates 100th anniversary. The expansion of the Panama Canal, aimed to be completed by June 2015, will open up the 81-kilometer channel to even bigger vessels. The canal currently uses locks to raise ships 26 meters above sea level. Water from the artificial lake enters by gravity into locks and causes ships to rise. The ships then travel through the artificial lakes and channels until they reach the locks to the sea on the other side. 2 new sets of locks are being constructed to supplement the already existing locks at the Atlantic and Pacific entrances of the channel. The new locks will be larger but use less water than the existing ones. Nearby basins will recycle the water from the locks as they are emptied and use the water to partially fill the locks when another ship passes through. Water from the canal's lakes will also be used to fill the locks. The new locks will be able to handle ships that are longer, taller, and wider. Per ship cargo capacity will nearly triple, from the current roughly 4,500 standard container limit to roughly 12,000 standard containers. These changes will make the Panama Canal more competitive with the alternative Suez Canal route, which currently accommodates much larger ships.
After our visit to the country of Colombia on January 7th, we are now excited to experience the Panama Canal on January 9th. Our ship's location specialist, named Barbara, narrates much of the journey throughout the 12-hour passage. Waiting our turn takes a good bit of the time, but the views from the ship's bow keep us engaged. We are only allowed there for special viewing events. This is the train at the Panama Canal pulling us along or doing something. Yeah, he's got cables pulling us along into the first lock.
There's one of those super things that would choose the new channel. See that? Very much. It's one of those things that would choose the new channel.
Look at the size of it. The gray.
That's what it was like, the one that Dale was playing
Chicken with.
Jacksonville built. This is the Culebra Cut, one of the great engineering feats of its time. In 1907, the workers toiled to carve a valley right through the Continental Divide. Immediately south of the cut, you can see the Centennial Bridge. Being pulled through the last locks to the Pacific Ocean from Miraflores Lake. This is the Miraflores locks. See the cables there?
See all the people up there?
We'll take a picture of them a little later. Leaving the last Miraflores locks towards the Pacific. On March 30th, 2017, our ship left the port of Aqaba, Jordan. Sailing south in the Gulf of Aqaba, we briefly entered the Red Sea and then swung north into the western fork called the Gulf of Suez. This trip was undertaken in the night hours and took us over 12 hours to anchor outside of Suez, Egypt, where the vessel hosted many inspectors. After given the go-ahead, at 4 a.m. our ship embarked on the 121-mile journey, taking 11 hours at a speed of about 9 miles per hour to reach the Mediterranean. To understand the magnitude of the Suez Canal, a short history is appropriate at this time. I will omit the pre-18th century history, which is very interesting but too extensive for this movie. This canal is mainly different from the Panama Canal because it has no locks, but the fact that it is 70 miles longer than the Panama Canal made it almost as difficult an undertaking. Of course, there were no jungles or mountains to contend with, but there was still extreme heat and disease which took the lives of thousands of workers. Building the canal required massive manpower, and the Egyptian government initially supplied most of the labor by forcing the poor to work for nominal pay and under the threat of violence. Beginning in late 1861, tens of thousands of peasants used picks and shovels to dig the early portions of the canal by hand. In 1863, forced labor was banned. After this development, French diplomat Ferdinand de Lesseps continued the construction using several hundred steam and coal-powered shovels and dredgers, bringing the project forward until its completion in 1869. It had taken 10 years and is now the fastest shipping route between Europe and Asia. Ferdinand de Lesseps' next project was digging the Panama Canal. Work began in 1881, but the company finally gave up in 1889, triggering convictions of scandal and fraud. $260 million had been wasted, and thousands died from yellow fever, malaria, and heat stroke. The United States took over in 1904 and completed the Panama Canal in 1914. Red Sea here. We're anchored outside of the Suez Canal.
Scientists and photographers scouring
Here's a view on our television monitor.
to find remnants of this. They said ultimately the engineer's report was faulty. He abandoned plans to dig a canal, and it took quite a few years for it to start again. Back in 1854,
Suez Canal, just really neat in the morning now. It's 7:10 in the morning. I guess we're going about 8 miles an hour, about 10 miles an hour, 8 knots, I guess. Oh, look at the wall and the guard shacks. So we're looking towards Egypt. We're right in the middle of the Suez Canal, about halfway to Port Said. Still looking west. And the other channel is just over those sand dunes. is a little work road. They have to constantly keep it clean of sand. It's a never-ending job. The Friendship Bridge was closed in July 2013 for security reasons. It is also known as the Egyptian-Japanese Friendship Bridge, the Mubarak Peace Bridge, Shohada 25 January Bridge, and the Al Salam Bridge. Tunnels and ferries are also available to get people across from Egypt to the Sinai. In 2020, more tunnels are contracted for completion under the canal, 2 for cars and 1 for trains. They will link Port Said on the Mediterranean Sea to the Sinai Peninsula.
Chocolate Quartz Gemstone. That'll take place in the Sports Bar of Deck number 5. And of course, tonight's show will welcome back to the stage the Amsterdam singers and dancers for an uplifting and heartfelt experience in their show Love Crazy. Enjoy the Suez Canal. Have a great afternoon.
Maybe 20 miles from Port Said. A couple of hours anyway. We're only going 10 miles an hour. Let's take a look over the railing, see what's going on here. That's the Japanese Friendship Bridge, it's called, the only vehicular bridge that goes over the Suez Canal. Way in the distance, we passed under that.